Good evening. Do I got? Oh, I won't have volume just there. Okay. We're going to get started here right away. Take their seat. We don't like to penalize people that are on time. First of all, I'd like to welcome and thank you all for coming. Beautiful day. It's 27 degrees outside. I'm going to do some short introductions. Can't hear me? A little louder? Kind of like when I'm at the back of the church. His Grace. And we also have Father Remy. And yourself, sir, is it Father Leo? I can't remember. But I'm trying to keep it short, so I don't want to do it too long. And Father Leo is here as well. Also, we have joining us is John. John is from Wetaskiwin, and he'll introduce himself when he gets up to speak. And also, I'll introduce myself. My name is Michael Willett. And I'm going to, sorry, I'm going to switch first. Holy Family. He is also a trustee with Holy Family. So I've got everyone there. Good. At this time, I would like to ask His Grace Jerry to come up and lead us in prayer.
Okay, all right. Let's begin in prayer, because what we're about, I think, is a sacred trust. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, we thank you for this beautiful day that draws us out this evening. We thank you for the many gifts that you give us. And as we consider this topic this evening, we thank you for the gift of Catholic education in Alberta, for the opportunity that it gives us to indeed build up your body, the body of Jesus, your Son, in the church. Bless us as we gather this evening. May we always be attentive to the promptings of your Spirit and be guided by all that the Spirit calls us to. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Well, I'm grateful to be able to introduce and host, in a way, our gathering this evening, although it's really the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association that has set this up, and I'm grateful for their initiative in this. A line that I've used before, but it's not an original, is that a text without a context is a pretext. And so I think it's always good to sort of situate ourselves when we talk about anything in a context. And I think when we talk about Catholic education in Alberta, I think we're talking about a culture. It's a whole culture, a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of building our community, those things that are important to us. We in Alberta are not the originators of Catholic education. This has been, the whole process of education has been very important to the church for centuries. I think if you look at the development of education, Western education around the world, before there was public education, we had monasteries and convents that were inviting young people to come within their walls in order to get an education, because we were convinced that it is an education that makes us not only Christian, but makes us truly human. And so this has been a part of the whole missiology of the church as it has gone out to the whole world, has been certainly to proclaim Jesus Christ, but also to open schools. I was intrigued back in January. Father Remy and I went to India, and even though Catholics make up a very small percentage of the population in India, it was amazing to see how present the church was, especially in her institutions, particularly in education. Schools, colleges, universities run by the church. And so the church takes all of this very seriously and always has. Um, as I say, even in countries where very few people were Catholic, our dedication to education far outstripped our percentage of the population. Um, and so that's true even to this day. And even before there was a Dominion of Canada or a province of Alberta, there were Catholic schools here. So we have a long and a venerable tradition. As I say, this is part of the church's mission, is to be involved in teaching. When I became a bishop, I was reminded that the bishop has a threefold mandate to sanctify, to govern, and to teach. And so the church puts a responsibility on me to be a teacher. And by that same token, as with every ordination, every priest that I ordain, I will remind them that they share in my mandate, that I count on them to sanctify, govern, and teach in their parish. And I'd like to remind teachers that they share in this as well. And this is part of the Catholic ethos. The bishop is the leader of the diocese. He is the one who is committed to ensuring that everything that has the name Catholic indeed is authentically Catholic. And so it's incumbent on me to always sort of have an eye to that, to make sure that indeed what we're doing is in concert with the rest of the church around the world. That what we're doing is according to our mandate, our philosophy, our belief about humanity and what it is to be not only, as I say, a believer, but also I brought with me, and they're at the back of the room on the table, an article written by Archbishop Michael Miller, who is presently the Archbishop of Vancouver. Before that, in a previous assignment, he was the secretary to the Congregation for Catholic Education, which is one of the departments in the Vatican. And it was in that role that he wrote this article, 5 essential elements of Catholic education. And I just want to refer a bit to that without reading the whole document to you. But I think he makes some very good points about what it is that the Catholic school. There are 2, I suppose, underlying issues, though. One is that we hold that parents are the first and primary educators of our children. And that's a very fundamental belief that we have. It's what parents pass on to their children that is most important. We don't see ourselves as taking the place of parents. Catholic schools are there to assist parents in their role to raise and educate their children. And again, the second is that the church does see education and schooling as very essential to her vocational mandate. Even as we had not long ago in the Gospel at Mass, as Jesus was ascending to the Father, he said, I command you to go and to baptize all nations, teach them all that I have commanded you, and know that I am with you always until the end of the world. And so we see that the very important, very central figure in this is Jesus Christ. And then this is very much a characteristic of Catholic education, Catholic schools, is that Jesus Christ is a very important figure, somebody that we refer to all the time. So the five essential elements, just to touch on them very briefly, that Archbishop Miller speaks of, he says that Catholic schools are inspired by a supernatural vision. We see life as being about God who created it, God who is the source and the summit of all that we have and do, that the spiritual life is real, and that what we are engaged in as human beings, we're on the process of becoming saints. Catholic schools are founded on a Christian anthropology. Anthropology is the way that we understand human beings, human life. There's a Christian anthropology, the way that we have always seen it. First of all, that we are children of God, that we are created in God's image and likeness. And as St. Augustine would put it, O God, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. There's a longing that each one of us has to come to know the one that created us, to know our true origins, and almost like a child, say, who maybe is without a family, orphaned, or looking for a family to belong to. That child is going to be looking for the beginnings of its life. So we say that in ours is founded in Jesus Christ, and the values put forth by Him, and that in Jesus we become most human. It's in Jesus that we become most human. God has become man in Jesus Christ, and so as we become more human, we resemble more Jesus Christ and the Father. Thirdly, that Catholic schools are animated by communion and community. The Catholic school is an educational community, and in that sense is not unlike a family, where there are relationships that are very fundamental. And that in a Catholic school, you find that there are relationships that are important. I've talked to a number of teachers who are not Catholic, but who have come to appreciate Catholic education. Many of, as we know, a good number of our teachers are not Catholic. They often choose to apply to our boards. There is something that they recognize there that they don't see other places. Fourthly, that the Catholic school is imbued with a Catholic worldview. We often speak of the permeation of faith, that faith has to permeate everything we do. And it isn't just a question of having crucifix on the wall or to having so many hours of religion a week. That every class, every circumstance, every game that we play, everything that we do in the Catholic school is permeated with faith and with this community that we have in Jesus Christ. And fifthly, that it's sustained by the witness of teaching. And here we speak of the role of the teacher as a witness. You may have heard that line from Pope Paul VI, where he said that modern man listens more willingly to witnesses than to teachers. And if he does listen to teachers, it is because they are witnesses. Catholic schools have to give witness to Jesus Christ, who is the source of our life. And so it isn't just a matter of getting up in front of a class and speaking to the students. It's about living a life that is credible in Jesus Christ. A number of years ago, I had the pleasure of visiting a number of high schools in Ontario. And in doing this, I found it interesting to notice the difference between some schools and others. And I can honestly say that these Catholic high schools were quite extraordinary in the sense that they had of Christian community. This is all about the Catholic school. And I know that some others are going to talk about the the role of the trustee, which is this is really about. It's about trustees and the role of the trustee in Catholic education. We often speak in Catholic circles of the dual mandate, and I know John's going to say more about that later. But the Catholic trustee finds him or herself in that position. This isn't just a public system of education. This is Catholic schools. And the relationship of the school board, of the schools, the staff, to the church is very important. I count on it. I do count on trustees and teachers and the whole system to be Catholic. And I look forward to every opportunity that I have to visit schools. I encourage all of our priests to visit schools, other faith leaders in the communities, that this relationship that we have, I think has to be evident in the way that I relate to teachers and trustees, the way that we relate to one another. We have to be credible as a community of faith, and the kind of trust, the kind of easy relationship present to one another that is needed for that. So I'm not going to say much more. What I love, and I don't know if we have time for this, I would love to have a question and answer period, but maybe we'll see at the end of the evening if we have time for that. Anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Your Grace. Yes, we will have a Q&A after, so not to worry about that. Next up, I'll introduce John Tomlinson. John is a trustee, and also John is the vice president of the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association. As the Grace also said, being a Catholic trustee is different than what you'll find in the whole group. There's two groups. There's the Alberta Catholic School Trustee Association, and we also belong to the Alberta School Board Association. Our conventions overlap. We'll have 2 days, and then we'll go in with all the trustees. It is totally two different things. The relationship between the Catholic trustees is very strong, and we work very hard as a group. So just so you know, and this time I'll introduce John, and John will do a presentation as well.
Thank you very much, Michael. I think at our next board meeting, we'll have to have another coffee together. We've been on the board together for, I don't know, how many years now? 7 years. Tompkinson. We're friends. It's okay. It's okay. As Michael introduced me, my name is John Tompkinson. I am coming to the close of my second term as a trustee with St. Thomas Aquinas. I live in the city of Wetaskiwin, Alberta, just south of Edmonton, with my wife and our 8 children. The majority of which are enrolled in our Catholic schools. The ones that are not yet in school, and they will be there when they get there. I've carried many roles in trusteeship with the local board, different committees, labor, finance, vice chair, chairman of the board for a number of years. I'm currently at the local level filling the role of vice chair, and I've been a director with the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association for 7 years. As Michael informs me now, sometimes they blur, and I'm currently the vice president of the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association. And so truly it is an honor to be up here in Grand Prairie sharing with you, and to see such a full room here, just about out of seats, and to know that we're being live webcast to our friends throughout the diocese. This is one of the larger dioceses in the province, and as we came together as an association, the largest. My apologies, Your Grace. As we came together for a discussion at the level of the association and with the bishops about the need for a discussion about the special and the unique role of Catholic trusteeship in Alberta, we felt that it was critically important to make sure that we were present in each of the dioceses across the province. So a number of weeks ago, I was speaking in Edmonton. President Adriana LaGrange a few weeks ago was up in Fort McMurray. Tonight, I'm up here with you on such a beautiful day in Grand Prairie. And tomorrow, President Adriana will be down in Calgary. and give the 4 big areas of the province these information sessions to talk about what it is to be a Catholic trustee, and not really to get into the weeds of the local political issues or the political issues of the day, but to speak truly about the role. Many of you here are likely considering trusteeship. And I remember some famous words from somebody that's likely watching on the webcast right now from Peace River, who will remain unnamed. Trusteeship, it's great, just be involved. It's 1 meeting a month. It's not 1 meeting a month. And I don't mean to build up a level of expectation that it's a great onerous project, but it's not 1 meeting a month. Trusteeship is a vocation. It's not just a job. When we're involved in ministry work, we're involved in helping within the community. We're involved in, as His Grace said, supporting the parents in their primary role of education. That's what Catholic education is about. Now, the specifics, which we'll get into in a little bit, about trusteeship in the context of the secular government in Alberta also come into play. And it's that balancing act between the dual mandate, the accountability to the church, to the magisterium, to church teaching, to your parish community, to the constituents of your separate school division, along with the School Act and the Local Elections Act and the Governance Act and speeches from the throne and education ministers or premiers. And you know what? There's shifting landscape all over. There's shifting landscape within our parish communities, and bishops come and go, and education ministers come and go, and trustees come and go. Boards grow and shrink. And it's balancing the needs of those through a Catholic worldview, accountable to both the secular government and to the church, that is the crux of the matter for a Catholic trustee. I brought a number of different things, and a few things were there. It's interesting because, of course, Bishop Petitpas and I did not have an opportunity to touch base with one another. I've been on the road for quite a while, and he has an incredibly busy schedule as well. So our touch base on tonight was literally about 20 minutes ago. And I brought 2 fundamental things and a number of different things to talk about tonight. One of them is the Alberta School Act, because if you're involved in trusteeship, though it's Catholic trusteeship, and of course our faith imbues everything that we do, it is educational governance, it is democracy, it is elected, and there are accountability measures and responsibilities that are outlined in this piece of legislation. The other piece that I brought to work with it and to understand is the document that your bishop has printed out for you over there, which is the Teaching on Catholic Schools from the Holy Sees, and it outlines the 5 marks of the Catholic school. I would highly recommend, if you're considering trusteeship, both are available online, but if you like, this is from the Queen's printer, and I know down in Edmonton I can pick these up at $6.50. So it's not a big investment to really get some depth of knowledge, and I do highly recommend it. So I'm thankful for His Grace speaking about this, and it means I can cut about 45 minutes out of my talk. So we've spoken tonight, His Grace has spoken a bit about the background and the Catholicity and the importance and the history of Catholic education. I mean, as we know, Catholic education has been around, quite frankly, since the Great Commission, since Christ Himself said, "Go and teach them." And that's what it's about, sharing the message of love, sharing the gospel message, sharing the truth. And it's about sharing all those different aspects. Catholic education isn't just about a Bible story about Moses. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And our faith teaches us that. And we understand that through faith and reason. Thus, anything that is true in the seeking of the truth is by default Catholic education. Your physics, your sciences, all of these different things, the mathematics, the English, the arts that the church has been known for millennia, are all imbued and they're all part of the system. So we have to look at the bigger picture when we understand what it is that is Catholic education. Then we have to look specifically to what is that role of governance. And it's interesting as well that, as Grace hit on it, that the role of the bishop specifically is that role of sanctifying, governing, and teaching. Now, the role of the trustee also is tied in with that. It is a participatory role of the laity to be highly involved in bridging the demands between the secular government and the diocese or the provincial or the church as a whole, the magisterium, in terms of the governance. Who's making those policies that operate the schools? Who is the employer for the local teachers and the bargaining group? Who is advocating for the capital dollars that are required to build the facilities as the student populations grow? Or in different areas, who's making those tough decisions about the layoffs that might occur, or the changes to the facilities, or to shutting down a school? While we're in Grand Prairie, and I know you're blessed with growth here with this board, it's a large diocese, and it's a bigger province, and it's a bigger country. Not everyone is blessed with the challenges of growth. Some people are contracting. There's tough decisions that need to be made on a day-to-day basis by boards of trustees working together as a team. As Michael spoke about too, part of the difference in the collaboration and the relationships between the Catholic boards that I've experienced in my years of trusteeship, and it's not to say better or worse, it's just to say that it's different between our provincial communities and associations and our Catholic associations. And the family that's in there really speaks to one of the marks in the 5 marks of Catholic education, and that is communion, and that is community, and that is family. And that is something that really strengthens the community. And it's critical, in my opinion, as well, to the role of the trustee. And so understanding that we're not here with specific individual agendas. We are democratically elected to represent a Catholic constituency and a Catholic voice. And then we come together as a board of trustees. So if you're thinking, I've got this one go-getcha issue and it's a flag that I'm going to run and we're going to go all the way to the touchdown, you may be successful in that, but you may find it also very frustrating and very challenging to realize that trusteeship is much deeper than that. It's really about coming together as a team on a board of trustees for your local school board, and to work together for the best interests of the students, for the student success that you serve. Right? Many people, we often get asked the question in secular worlds and in Catholic worlds these days. We know the headlines, not just locally or provincially, but nationally and internationally as well. While it's a closed door policy, it's not a closed door policy. We don't deliver Catholic education to Catholics. We deliver Catholic education because we're Catholic. It's about giving of what we have been able to receive. It's about serving the greater needs of society, and it's about that student success and lifting up those kids in that community. Our boards should operate the same way as well. Our trustees should operate the same way as well, along with our bishops and our clergy and our communities and our parishes. So what I'm going to do at this point, and I'll point out to everybody in the room, just at the door when you came in, I hope you grabbed a copy of this. This is a trustee election guidebook for this year that was put together by our association, the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association. For those of you watching online, it is available on our website as well, so you can find a copy there if you haven't gotten one already. There's a couple of key points in there that I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about, and that's some of the roles and the responsibilities of trustees. Now, I'll speak to a bit of both secular and the added responsibility of Catholics. The Alberta School Boards Association has a wonderful handout as well for this go around. That's also available on their website, Be a Leader in Your Community. And from a secular perspective, and we'll begin there for a moment, because there's there's responsibilities that come for trustees in being democratically elected within our form of government. There's accountabilities for boards of trustees to the provincial government in terms of pillar results, making your reports, your 3-year ed planning days, your budgets, your capital reports, fiscal committees, collective bargaining. We're in the midst of teacher collective bargaining right now. Parts of it are done centrally through a new association called TIBA, and parts of it are being done locally by your local boards right now. So as trustees, you're involved in that. There's legal considerations to consider if you are thinking about becoming a trustee. Of course, just as an MLA or an MP or a city councillor, you'd have to be 18, you have to be a citizen, and you have to have also lived in Alberta for 6 months leading up to that election. Now, the election date is October 17th, so if you're over 17 and a half, do the math, and you're living here a couple weeks ago and you're a citizen, you should be good to go but those are the legal requirements coming from the Act. Nomination day for this year is Monday, September 18th. And so you might want to take note of that. We'll get to the nominations process and campaigning a little bit later in this. There are some logistics to think about. Part of the specifics, though, in terms of Catholic trusteeship, you won't find really in the education, in the School Act or the Local Elections Act, you're not going to find the word Catholic popping up all over. What you will find in legislation is the word separate. Separate. And so where there's references to separate, those are references to the constituency that we serve in the separate school system. And so you would have to reside within a separate school jurisdiction, and not all the provinces form. So you'd have to check where you live and ensure that you are established and formed as part of a Catholic school jurisdiction. Alberta is a little bit unique in that the minority faith in the province is what establishes the separate system. And over the last 100 years, some of it's been Protestant, some of it's been Catholic. As the demographics have shifted, as of right now, it's all Catholic. And so you'd have to be within one of those formed areas, and that makes you a citizen and part of that constituency, part of that community. And so you'd have to be there. If you live outside of that area or don't meet any of the other requirements of the School Act, you would not be eligible to run. So you've thought about running, you've considered it, you're eligible. What does a school board trustee do? Well, let's start first of all with the secular side, and then we're going to add the additional responsibility. You're Catholic, you want to be a trustee, that's great. You have to do more than the others do. Not less, not a balancing. It's an additional responsibility to take upon this vocation. Setting school jurisdiction goals, mission statements, vision statements, value statements. Where is it that the division is going? Not necessarily one school, and taking a look at the big picture. Children through that vision and the staff through that vision to strengthen the product, strengthen the education that's being done, because we're not doing this for ourselves. As I said earlier, I have 8 children. I got into this because of my kids, and I stay because of them, because of their friends, because of the kids in the school and the jurisdiction and the province that I can hopefully, by the grace of God, serve through good decision making. That's why we do what we do. We need to plan school board priorities. We need to take a look. We know right now there's discussions going on across the province about curriculum. Trustees are part of that discussion, part of that engagement process. What is it that we are delivering? How is it that we are delivering it? Renewal, balancing the budgets. I hear from some people, wouldn't it be great to give all the kids iPads and just get rid of the textbooks and go to digital? And I mean, there's pros and cons. We're not going to debate the merits on that, but who pays for those iPads? That's a board decision, has to take a look, and there's going to be something that comes. Or we don't go digital and we go old school, or there's a blend. Or is this topic more important than that topic, or this teacher, that teacher, or this school, that school? These resources need to be managed. Trustees and boards of trustees develop and implement annual budgets for school jurisdictions based on those requirements and framed within their strategic priorities. Develop policies to guide the school jurisdiction administration and employees towards divisional goals. One of the early misconceptions that many people have when they're understanding or contemplating trusteeship is, I don't like that principle, so I'm just going to get in there and we're just going to have a conversation about that principle. That is not the role of a trustee, not at all. The role of the trustee is in the governance. When and if you're elected as a board of trustee, as a trustee onto a board, you become one member on that governing team, which is the board. And that governing team only has one employee. It does not have a bunch of assistant superintendents and a bunch of principals and a bunch of teachers and a bunch of EAs and a bunch of custodians. There's only one employee for a board, a school board in Alberta. That is the superintendent, and everything administratively works through there. Your role is governance. Your role is communication. Your role is strategic planning. Your role is balancing the needs and the accountability between the Catholicity and the secular to meet the needs of the community. Your job is also advocate. A lot of our time is spent in advocacy. Advocacy within our communities. Cabinet education, we call it home, parish, and school. And those three need to be working together. That's where we can find the best student success. That's where we find happy, healthy, holistic kids that are growing in their minds mentally, growing with their bodies physically, growing with their hearts emotionally, and growing with their souls spiritually. And that's a truly holistic way to understand the education. That requires the cooperation of home, parish, and school. Well, part of the role of the trustee is the advocacy that goes on in those different areas. How do we encourage parents to be more engaged? How do we make sure that we have the physical and material supports that we need from the provincial government, who's gathering the resources into one pot and then divvying them out per child across the province? Do we have more kids that need some help? Do we need capital over here? Where's the parish community involved in supporting this as well? And working to continually advocate in those different areas is one of the cornerstones of trusteeship. You know, we're speaking about Catholic trusteeship here, but across the province of Alberta right now, there's 400 trustees involved in advocacy for their boards, for their communities, for the children that they serve. Right? The only difference is that then have an added responsibility to the church, to the magisterium, to deliver what the church has been delivering for 2,000 years. Right? Predates the country. One of the other responsibilities in that accountability is that our board meetings are open. They're open public board meetings, just as the municipalities, just as question period at the ledge is. We can debate the merits of professionalism all the time, and there's good boards and there's bad boards. But that being said, it's about transparency and accountability. We are accountable not just to the church and not just to the provincial government, but to the parents, to the ratepayers, to the community, to anybody that wants to come on in and take a look. Our documents and policies for each board are made available online through the websites. They're reported to the provincial government. They come through school councils and the partnerships that are held there. There's roles for trustees in communicating each of these different things. And then ultimately, based on the outcomes, whether things are working well or not well, the trustee's role in cooperation with the entire board is to ensure that their one employee, the superintendent, is following the strategic plan, listening to the information that's been given, and to do their evaluation, to make sure that the contract is there, to make sure that the evaluation is there. Now, if you take a brief look inside the handout that we prepared on the website and given here, a lot of what I've covered is there, but not all of it. But not all of it, because that goes back then to the added responsibilities of the Catholic trustees. A key responsibility for trustees is to stay in touch with community stakeholders so that they understand and reflect upon the decision making, what all citizens value and want from their local public schools. It is important to note that trustees may represent a school, neighborhood, or community, and they make decisions based on the needs of the entire jurisdiction. As elected trustees, they have these roles: communicators, planners, policymakers, advocates, educators, lobbyists, legislators. And I've left two out off that list that I'm going to go to now, and they tie in to the last one, which is what really makes it Catholic trusteeship, and that is faith leadership. The role of faith leadership ties in to the role at the bottom of the page of politician. It's on there on the page. We are elected. We are politicians. We are local politicians. We have constituents. We have voices that we represent. The word politician too often in society is used pejoratively these days, but it doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. It means that you're working for the service and the good of others. And in that, as a Catholic trusteeship, one of the important things is to remember that we are faith leaders within the community as well. Are we engaged in our faith? Do we understand our faith? Are we practicing our faith? Are we sharing our faith? Because this, like any other ministry of the church, is ministry work. And so I would encourage you to consider those different aspects as you consider trusteeship. I think that covers actually most of the list here. I think what I'll take a few minutes to talk about now, we've already spoken about eligibility. And across the province, of course, with the different dioceses and the number of different boards, and the number of different schools. There are some different past practices and different policies that go across the province in terms of logistical matters. So we've spent some time considering what is the role of the trustee, what are the responsibilities of the trustee. If I'm making a decision now at this point in time to seriously consider it, what work do I need to do? How do I go about doing that from Valley View, Peace River, Grand Prairie, anywhere within this diocese? As I said, the election is coming up in October. The nominations deadline will be September 18th. Now, if you're in Peace River or Valley View, you might want to check with Holy Family Board. I'm not sure what the board office or the municipality is doing up there. Down in the city of Grand Prairie, I've been informed that your nominations paperwork would come to the board office, and the returning officer there can look after that for the Catholic trusteeship. But I would encourage anybody that's in the room that's not from those areas, or anybody that's watching on the webcast. The way that the returning officers work and the nominations paperwork can be different from board to board and from community to community. I would recommend that you contact your local Catholic school board office. Sometimes the secretary or the secretary treasurer or the superintendent can help point you in the right direction. And most of the board offices by now would have information prepared, and if they don't, they will have it out shortly. So I would encourage you just to ask and get clarity around that. So you're going to have your nominations done. Those are different, again, from area to area. I know in some municipalities, there's a fee associated and a certain number of signatures. In other areas, it's very minimal. It really depends. So I won't speak to that. Make sure you ask. Campaigning. Campaigning is different from community to community and diocese to diocese. I will inform you that, again, there are secular municipal regulations around campaigning and signage and those different things. But it's interesting being a Catholic trustee, while there's an added responsibility and an added workload, there's also a few added benefits, and that's that you always know where your constituents are at least once a week, hopefully. And so the ability to engage with your community, the ability to have an ongoing dialogue and ongoing discussion, you're probably going to find them on any given Sunday or Saturday night. That also runs with a challenge in terms of campaigning. I know that this diocese will be putting out some information sheets on that closer to the end of the summer or at some point over the summer, just regarding some best practices and do's and don'ts. I know from diocese to diocese in the Archdiocese of Edmonton, there is a diocesan policy about how and when campaigning is acceptable. We don't suddenly want Sunday Mass to become a lobby event, but we also do recognize that that's an opportunity to have the discussions with the people that you'd want to have the discussions with. So I think at the end of the day, provincially, in the conversations that we've had with each of the dioceses and each of the different boards and bishops as well, with dignity, with respect, we are here to work together, and we are one body in Christ. We are one family. We are in communion with one another. Whether or not we agree with each other about policy X or opening or closing of school B, we're going to have those conversations as respectfully and professionally as we can, and recognize that that helps carry the message and the gospel message of love as well. So for this diocese, I would look for more information coming up for you shortly. I think that's it for now. I mean, as His Grace was speaking to, it is really about question and answer. And I know we've got a full room here. You know, at the end of the day, I think one of the important things is, and I've got one of the last things here, it's an ACSTA information sheet that we had prepared a little while ago, has become one of my bookmarks in the last speech from the throne. And this was sitting on my desk as I was heading out. And I thought, you know, I'm just going to bring that because it really speaks to what we as Catholic trustees do in balancing that and communicating that and working together in order to make sure that the work of Catholic schools and Catholic education does fit into that speech from the throne. So thank you very much, and look forward to questions for both His Grace and I tonight.
Thank you, John. Yes, now we're going to open up the floor for Q&A. Anyone have any questions? And who would you like it? Father Remy.
Just on page 6 of it, who can run as a Catholic trustee? Second bullet, must profess to be a Catholic, wherever a Catholic. How is that
We can both answer that in different ways, probably. The School Act, and this comes down to constituency and how things work logistically. You must be a resident of the board or the division in which you intend to run. In Alberta, with the School Act and the Elections Act, when a separate division is formed, be it Protestant or Catholic, it has to be the minority faith. And there's a very specific prescriptive manner in which either one gets formed. Once it's formed by law in the School Act, all citizens of that said faith within that geographically defined area by default become mandatory residents of that area. So your taxes mandatorily go there. I know there's a tick box on your municipalities, but if, for instance, the entire city of Grand Prairie is formed area, the whole city limits. So if you live within the city of Grand Prairie right now, it's all formed, it's got a separate board. If you are a Catholic, your tax dollars automatically are denoted as Catholic, and you are a citizen of the separate school board, not the public school board. So anybody that's there, how you self-define or the church defines you as a practicing Catholic is a matter of theology and canon law, and I'll throw it over to the bishop to answer.
Well, and I know that in the Education Act, I mean, all you have to do is self-declare. You don't have to present a baptismal certificate. If you say you're Catholic, they'll say you're Catholic.
In Alberta, it is simply a self-declaration. There was a court case a number of years ago, which you may recall, Catholic schools used to have baptismals, used to have a requirement or ask for baptismal certificates. There was a court case years ago and some discussion about equality and access. And it was deemed and asked of us to stop asking for those. And anybody that says that they are Catholic, they are Catholic. But you must be a Catholic within a formed area in order to run for an office holding for Catholic.
There has to be some more questions. The one thing you'll find here. It's a good question, and it's something that we try to track. It's very difficult to track it, again, because we welcome all students into our schools. In our schools, if you are non-Catholic, we do explain to you that you won't be pulling your child out when we have religion classes and stuff like that. So you do sign up. So we have that. To give you an exact number, I wouldn't have that, Carl. I don't know if you have that.
It really speaks to not just the mission of Catholic education, but the partnership between the greater society and the community that we find ourselves in Canada and in Alberta. The doors are open. And because we're not asking, knocking on the door, what faith, what group are you? Those numbers are not published, but they do vary considerably from community to community, all the way across the province. Some are nearly completely Catholic, and others are 50-50. But the doors are open, and individuals are choosing that faith-based, permeated Catholic education because of the values that are supporting it and underpinning it.
Thanks, John. The other thing I can say, there are 5 trustees in the room, and we do have some snacks, and if you feel more comfortable, this is one organization where we lobby very hard to have people run. We want trustees to run. The worst thing is when there's not enough running. So we are a group that very advocates for people to run for trusteeship. But as I said, there's 5 trustees here, and we will answer any questions that we can help you with. Father Remy.
The deadline for nominations is January 18th.
Yes, all the lists will be printed. I'm not sure how they'll through City Hall. They'll go through City Hall. So after the 18th, a whole list of everyone running for mayor, councilors, public school, and separate school is listed right after.
I know in most communities, it's usually published very shortly after, and on a local newspaper and local media as well. There's requirements to make it public. I think that's an excellent question. And it does hit the nail on the head. The role of the teacher is very clear. It's easy to identify that. Piece, here's the students, here's the environment, it's all set there. Trustee engage in the permeation of the faith. By approaching the decisions that they make grounded in Christ, grounded in faith, and understanding, I think that there's extra responsibility there to understand the true nature of Catholic social justice, social teaching, the compendium of the Catholic Church on social justice issues, and to understand how to apply that into policy making that's going to support the staff and going to support the students in an environment that continues to witness and to evangelize. Let me give you an example. And it's not always directly visible what Catholic trustees do to assist in supporting the evangelization. At the provincial level, as the vice president for the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association, part of our mandate is supporting trustees in their faith development so that they can go and give. You can't give what you don't have. And so one of the big events that we do each year are two faith formation events. One is for administrators and staff and teachers, and one is for trustees. They're called SPICE and they're called Blueprints. I see heads nodding across the room right now with big smiles on their faces. They know what I'm about to say, but the opportunity there to encourage each other in faith, to understand that, and to go into witness and to support one another permeates literally into the policies and the decision and the culture, the vision, the mission, the direction that the superintendents are given, which then flows into the teachers, and it creates that culture. So I think one of the most immediate ways that the trustees are involved in that permeation is by working strongly on their own faith and working with others in community and in communion with one another to continue to be able to evangelize themselves, to support and uplift the direction of the school boards towards the kids. I can think of a number of different ways, but I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Well, from a local, how do we get feedback? Again, as a trustee, and I would just speak for myself here, we try to fly at 30,000 feet. We cannot be, our job is not to get into the schools. We try to stay out of that. We have different people that work in the schools that report back to us on their faith formation, on what they're doing in each. We just had a report last month, a great report. Everything that this lady is doing in the schools to permeate the faith. And it was a strong report, and it gave myself, and maybe I can speak for it, gave us a lot of confidence on what's going there, because we get that question quite a bit. Do we have non-Catholic teachers teaching different things? So that is something that we have to deal with. Not all places can we have a Catholic teacher teaching it. So, but we have a lady out there that does a fantastic job to prove to us that we're there. But no, if we ever tried to get into the school, that's not what my role is. Okay. Any others? Yes. So in this area, in the Grand Prairie area, and it could be different in Peace River, it could be different in different areas, but in our area, each trustee is appointed to a school, 2 or 3 schools. And part of that is, and again, speaking for myself and the trustees in the room, I can speak for, we attend the parent council meetings. We do our best to attend most of the parent council meetings. Sometimes it's not possible. Through there, we get that information. We're just there to listen and to give a report. We don't, it's very interesting, the parents that are involved. So it's good as a trustee. We find it very, very good to attend those meetings. And then we also meet 4 times a year as all of us together. All the school boards, parent councils, and the trustees come together with the principals to keep the communication flowing. One of the biggest areas that we try to entice people to run and where they will come from is from parent council. They'll get involved in parent council, they'll think about it, and then they'll run as a trustee. So it's almost, yeah.
I would just add that across the province, it's wildly different. So there's not one solution or answer or style to that question. It really depends on the community basis. I know in a lot of communities and boards, similar to the boards within this diocese, the opportunity presents itself. But in other instances, for instance, Calgary Catholic, each trustee has 20, 30 schools. They're not going to be attending school council meetings. So structures of engagement for school councils and trustees vary considerably across.
Any other questions? Yes. Sir. No. Go ahead. Just have to use certain words and I back up.
Questions are getting tougher. Yeah. It comes from the community and the collegiality, and it comes from the common good working together. There are, of course, Catholic social teaching. We have to understand a few principles right off the bat, and one of them is subsidiarity. Subsidiarity in Catholic social teaching says that the best decision is going to be made at the lowest level possible. So where the individuals are most likely to be impacted is where it should be done. That supports the strong and imbued sense of local decision making amongst the boards. That being said, there absolutely are times and places where our not just desire but need for unity overcomes that, and we come together. At the Alberta Catholic School Trustees Association, every separate board in the province, every Catholic board in the province has a director that sits on that board and sits at that table. Michael's been the director up here for many years. I used to be the director for my local board and then became executive with the association. At that association, Faye sat at that table for quite some time as well. At that association, we come together as local decision makers, as local governing bodies and boards to say, is there something here that we need to be unified on? Is there something that we need to be looking at provincially, be it in regards to anything that's going on in the provincial government over the years with PC governments and NDP governments? I mean, the issues vary just as widely as any piece of provincial legislation that's come up, whether it be advocacy pieces on budget or looking at curriculum pieces. But specific to that, we look at the Catholic angle of the legislative pieces within that association, and we all hold voices as well with our partner at the Alberta School Boards Association for the greater umbrella issues, the issues that are not quite so Catholic in flavor but are more secular. So we do work together, and how those are identified, really any board brings an issue to the table, and we have a discussion about whether we should be moving ahead together as a group unified and try to have everybody talking or supporting the local decision making. I hope that answers your question.
Again, and if any of the other trustees want to speak, but it is the ongoing joke. I mean, I think you have to realize that every event, not, I could use this as an example, but this night is gone for me in my personal life. So there was a family birthday, but you make decisions and you make what you have to do. So it doesn't matter if the meeting is an hour. We're going to have a quick meeting for an hour, parent council. You have to put that into your head. You really need to know that it's gone. The night is gone. You leave your house at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock meeting. This is in Grand Prairie, so in Valley View, you could be going somewhere else. So you have planning a distance time like that. And there are different committees, but what I would probably recommend and what this Grand Prairie Catholic is going to do, and I'm sure any district would do it, is going to, for the candidates, is going to make a list of what commitments are expected. We have provincial stuff that you have to go to, and you kind of need to be there. It's very important. You learn, you talk to other trustees, that's where you learn the most. You learn from people that have been there, 10, 12 years and stuff like that. To put a timeline on it, I would say you would have eight events a month. Easy. And those are fun, great events. I mean, if you want to attend, when my children were smaller, I would take them to the high school to the show. I wanted to go as a trustee, but I could take my children. So, I did that a lot, and it was just good, good for me to see parents. And, a lot of times they ask you, what are you doing here? Well, you don't have to be here, but that's the role. It depends on how you take the role. And the more you put into it, the more you'll become involved in your parish. There's a whole other thing, So yeah, it's a commitment. I would tell you that. I would say it's a big commitment, and you'll hear more of why weren't you there? People will say that. Well, I just went to 7 things and I was in Calgary for 2 days and they don't know all that. So, that's, yeah.
There's also a certain degree of taking on as much as your life or experience can take on. There are flexibilities, especially within a high performing productive board, because it's a team game. It's not about the individual, it's about the team. And so the different roles still need to be performed. I mean, the board has a public meeting. The board has its set dates and times for that. You'll find that on your local divisional websites, usually with the calendars and the board information sheets. Those are publicly available because the public meetings need to be communicated. So you'll be able to see how often your board meets. Boards are going to have finance committees. They're going to have governance committees. They're going to have policy committees. They're going to have any number of different committees that you may not have interest in, you may or may not be involved in. You're talking to 2 people here. I put in considerably more hours in Catholic trusteeship than I do in my occupation that feeds my children and pays my mortgage. Considerably more. But that's by choice, and that's a perspective and a level of involvement that is optional. You travel quite a bit, and we run into each other. I've been on the road for a number of days, and today I got back yesterday from an AGM and was home and played with the kids, and I went to work this morning, and when I landed, I was on a teleconference finance meeting for my own local board before coming here tonight. I'm back out at 6 in the morning. But it's not that it takes away time, because if you understand it as a vocation, it is what we do. It's like asking a priest, how many hours did you put in? I mean, I don't have a punch clock. I don't have a punch clock because I'm serving the community, and the community is there 24/7. The students are there 24/7. And it doesn't matter if the provincial government drops a bombshell on some issue tomorrow, we're responding to it, whether I was going to be at the park or not. And then the other day, it's about balancing life because it's quiet and we're going to go camping. You're engaged when you're elected and responsible for a constituency and to serving the betterment of those kids. So it's really hard to give an hours or days answer.
Yes, Faith. Thanks, good.
I'm just going to jump in. I'm not pointing any fingers, but I heard a read. Read what? Next time your local community board has a meeting, go on the website and read the board package. And then look at the calendar and see the number of meetings. And put the board package and multiply it by the readings, and you're going to know that trustees do a lot of reading.
Thanks, John. So I think we've answered a lot of questions. Again, as I said before, we're going to be around if you have any more. I will just tell you, the biggest issue facing Catholic education right now is, in the 7 years I've been there, it's always been an issue, is that there are groups that want to absolve us. They want one public school board throughout the province of Alberta. There's many reasons which have been said tonight why we need Catholic education. Through our role with ACSTA, that's a role that the provincial body takes care of. We lobby government, we talk to government, we do so much on that role. It's a very big role, and John actually plays a large role in it right now, but it is something that we're dealing with all the time. And that's something that we always try to do. So that's the one thing. So it is out there, and it is something very important to us is to keep this. If there are no more questions, we just maybe a quick closing prayer, and then we'll be around to answer.
Let us pray. For your many blessings, we give you thanks, O Lord. And as we consider the need for trustees in our school boards, we ask for a continual flow of your Spirit among us. We ask you, Lord, to encourage those whom you are calling to serve as trustees. Give them the courage and the confidence that they need to run and to serve their communities in this particular way. Watch over each one of us gathered here this evening. We give you thanks for their generosity of heart and spirit in being a part of this evening. May your blessing fall on each one of us, Lord, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.